Welcome, everybody, on a beautiful Tuesday in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's pretty hot here, about 95 degrees, but a wonderful day. We're in the dog days of summer getting ready for college football. Back at it again here on Believe in UNLV Football. I'm your host, Alon Desai. Some quick news for you, just real fast. UNLV able to secure a sponsor, a new field sponsor over at Allegiant Stadium. It is with Plasma Therapy Company. UNLV announces its first ever football field sponsor. This is something we are seeing all over college football, different sponsors trying to get their name on a football field, and a very good deal for UNLV. They're able to get a sponsorship and a really good deal for any company that's looking to get their name out there, especially at a place like Allegiant Stadium. So just kind of reflects the growing commercial interest, investment, just the buzz that's going on around this Rebel football team. And you get one sponsorship now, maybe you get another sponsorship in the future. Of course, there are already all those sponsorships at Allegiant Stadium, like the Winfield Club. So we'll see if that develops into anything more. The other big news today regarding the Mountain West and UNLV in particular, the Pac-12 and CBS sports broadcasting deal, they were able to reach an extension through 2031. This does impact the visibility of the Mountain West Conference because this new look Pac-12 is now going to be on CBS. You have to assume they're going to get the lion's share of the big CBS games, but we'll see how the window is split on Saturdays and Fridays and even Thursdays. Some of those weekday games for both conferences on the CBS Sports Network. So that's big CBS as well as CBS Sports Network in addition to that. So we'll see. Maybe Mountain West kind of benefits indirectly in a way from maybe being before or after one of those big Pac-12 slots. And you could see a Mountain West team square off against another conference opponent in a good time slot, and maybe people will just tune in because they're getting ready for that Pac-12 game, so they might be able to catch some good Mountain West football as well, whether it's after or before the big Pac-12 marquee game. But just to discuss all these things about the Mountain West and UNLV football, as well as some San Jose State news in particular as well, is my good friend Alex Scott. Alex Scott is a friend of mine that I used to work with back in the Bay Area. He is the co-founder of The Forgotten Sports, along with another friend of ours, Cody Elias, and he is just a sports aficionado, and you can see there he's got the SJSU colors on. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing well, Alon. Good to talk with you again. It's been a little bit, but glad to be chatting with you here today.
No, good. It's good to see you. I'm glad there's someone else out there in the world of sports who cares about the Mountain West. And when I was thinking, who are we going to get on as a guest this week, I went, I know exactly who to get. I'm gonna reach out to my good buddy Mr. Scott. So just Alex, real quick about this Pac-12 CBS extension through 2031. I know the Mountain West has really called that network home for a while, but how does this impact the visibility for schools like UNLV, San Jose State, Wyoming, who's had some fun years recently as well? I mean, Boise State, who is now part of that remade Pac-12, they got to get the best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, initially, the deal that they still have is good, because you're still getting the exposure right there on, CBS and CBS Sports Network and all those different, avenues. And they've done a great job with the games on there. And, they've had the later night games, and they've been fun, a little throwback to the Pac-12 After Dark a little bit. There's been some entertaining games. I know last year in San Jose State in particular played a thriller in early September against Washington State. That was on CW, but it was still a fun, entertaining game. I think it's good. This is going to have exposure for different different people seeing different schools across the country, and that's always a good thing for visibility. Like you said earlier about different games getting on in different time slots, and say, oh, maybe I'll stay and watch this game. Maybe I have a little bit of interest in this one.
No, it could be a situation where you get those extra eyeballs, as you're saying, Alex, just from people saying, oh, I plan to watch Washington State or Oregon State or Colorado State or something like that. And then boom. And not to mention, just real quick, that new Pac-12 doesn't really come into action yet until the 2026-2027 season.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, because now you're kind of teaching people and getting them acclimated to, okay, these are the new schools of the remade Pac-12, and you're going to see some of these matchups. They may not be all the time, but I would, like to see, maybe you see a Fresno and San Jose State play each other, and it'll be on CBS, and that's the big rivalry game. Something that we'll see this year, for the last time as a member of the same conference.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we've already had to deal with reconferencing and
Oh yeah,
realignment for the last handful of years here. The SEC really started it all off by poaching Big 12 schools, but it's now on the West Coast. And even though Nevada here in Las Vegas, we're not on the West Coast. I mean, we're very much West Coast adjacent.
Oh yeah.
But just to give everybody out there an idea of who these new teams in this new look Pac-12 are going to be, it's Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno, SDSU, and Utah State. So what you're looking at about 4 or 5 teams right there that were Mountain West mainstays and really top tier Mountain West programs in terms of Fresno State and Boise State. So kind of we'll see how that goes. So this year they'll all kind of play that mixed kind of schedule, but and they'll all be on CBS. But Alex, I guess the segue here is, do we foresee eventually just having a super conference? And I know this has been floated around there, a super conference between the Mountain West, what's left now, and this new Pac-12 going forward. But a lot of the schools in the Mountain West have said, no, we want to stay. We think we can make more revenue here for the time being. I don't know if that's just, what they have to say or if they really do believe that.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that, as some of these schools that came in, and like, you would think 2 schools that would be on the list to have been included in this Pac-12 merger initially, and I thought UNLV and San Jose State were 2 schools that would get that call because of the market, because of where they're located, and just based off of all of that. But I know because of, history will dictate that takes a little bit of time. Okay, San Jose State's not that good with basketball. Their football's on the rise, but they're also getting better in basketball, and certain things that will, play into that. I think now that with the schools that stayed, I think they have a solid group of schools to, play entertaining football, make basketball interesting, and any of the other sports as well. Football and basketball are going to be the 2 mainstays. I think just about the different schools that may come in, or they may still be in discussion on who's going to come in or who's going to play where, I think will have a different effect to just see what they have down the road. Let's see where they are in these first couple of years, and see what it looks like in 27, 28, and just see where it lies. Let's get the first year of this down. Okay, let's see how the travel schedule works. Let's see who wants to come in and really make a go of it, because you got some of these schools who are like D2 that may want to make that jump in there, and this could be a perfect segue for them to jump into Division I football or Division I sports.
Like a UC Davis, for instance,
who's
dabbled, for instance, in basketball, and they're trying to, be on the rise in football. And it's not like UC Davis is lacking funding; they can fund programs, and it's a very good institution. But that is one of the new members of the new Mountain West going forward. They're going to first be there as a non-football member, but they also are the conference itself having teams like Northern Illinois and UTEP join as well in 2026. But it's kind of a mishmash, and I know UNLV has signed a what they called a grant of rights agreement through 2032, which basically says, hey, we're committed to the conference, and with other schools that are committed as well, like Air Force, San Jose State. And that is pretty much put in place a multi-million-dollar penalty for exiting the conference.
Yeah.
All that being said, you don't want to end up being one of these conferences that only has 6, 7, 8 teams max. So you're going to need to figure that out. And I'm assuming, and Alex, I don't know what your view on this is, but that change is going to happen sooner rather than later. You can't kick this down the road.
Oh no, yeah, that's gonna. They're probably already in talks about this. They're probably already discussing about it. I'm also saying that let's see what this looks like in 27, 28. Let's see what this looks like after a year of what they currently have, because then they're gonna say, oh, we need to fix this, or we need to get more. There needs to be more than just this.
No, completely agree. And for not just the football, I mean, this is a football centric show, but for all the different sports, I mean, the Mountain West is a fun conference and it has been. They've done great things with the Mountain West Network, I believe. They've done good things with partnering with CBS. So things are very much in flux. I think geographically, it would only make sense for a lot of these teams who are still in the Mountain West to try to figure out something, whether it's being in separate conferences and having some type of conference agreement schedule in place, just something like that that could help the teams and the fans compete against teams that are close to them and keep some of those natural rivalries. I mean, imagine a world where, for instance, from a UNLV perspective, UNLV joins the Pac-12, but UNR is stuck in the Mountain West. Or what you have now with San Jose State, where San Jose State is in the Mountain West and Fresno State is now in this new Pac-12, or will be, or San Diego State, for instance, is now in this new Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of stuff to figure out. It's a very it's a wide open landscape. Wide open.
Yeah, no, very, very wide open. Not to get too much into the weeds on what happened last year, but last year it was really Boise State's conference, and it has been for the past 2 years. It's what's going to happen when you have good coaching up there, good quarterback play, but really Ashton Jeanty, who was just so amazing for Boise State. And UNLV did try to contain him, and Jackson Woodard, who was a very good linebacker here in Las Vegas, had some of his best games. That being said, UNLV still was not able to get the job done and beat Boise State. So Boise State has had a stranglehold on this conference for a while. Every once in a while, you'll see a Fresno State come up and be the best in the conference, but Boise State, definitely the cream of the crop. They went 7-0 last year in the Mountain West. UNLV was 6-1. San Jose State was 3-4. They had some heartbreakers, but really the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the conference all had winning overall records, with the exception of Fresno State. So I bring all of that up. Air Force really had a drop off as well, but I bring all that up, Alex, because looking forward going into this 2025 to 2026 season, do you think it's Boise State again? Do you think it's theirs to, I guess, just go undefeated and climb that mountaintop and punch another bid in for the playoff? Or do you think we're going to see a surprise?
Well, I think right now they're the guys to beat. Obviously, they're the guys to knock off the table. You lose a huge chess piece in Ashton Jeanty, who electrified each school that he played, electrified the nation, with his talented, running style, the whole thing of it. Even San Jose State, they contained him for a little bit, but then as soon as that second half, he just went ballistic against these guys. So it's going to be tough, because that's huge. That's a huge piece, but they're always going to be focused to go at it again. They have strong NIL base, great support from all those years. I don't think it'll be as, let's say, dominant as they were last season. I think they'll still be, a top matchup. I wouldn't say it'll be like undefeated, completely buzzsaw through the entire conference. I think they'll have some stumbles, right? Because that's inevitably what's going to happen. Any given Saturday, any given, whatever, you can lose, right? And they have shown that there are weaknesses there, but I think too, it's wide open away from, 3 or 4 teams can probably get to that point. It's, Boise's already there, UNLV, San Jose State, and I think, get on a lucky run. I think Fresno can get up there as well too. So that's just in Air Force as well. A lot of the other schools, I think, have a little bit of work to do, to kind of stay and survive where they're at, or at least to make progress. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit wide open, but look to them initially to be what we know. And I think once you get into conference play, I think we'll see they may stumble, and I think that's going to be the case, that somebody's going to catch them on a bad day and get lucky.
Yeah, and they're not going to have that guaranteed 150 yards at least on the ground.
No. That, and then you're going to have to ask what's his name? What's his name? The quarterback again. It's
Mattison, right?
Yeah, Maddox.
Maddox. Yeah,
Maddox Matson. You're going to have to ask him to play a little bit more. Up. Have to have him raise his game to the next level.
No, that's definitely going to be big for Boise State. I mean, were you at the game? So I saw Boise State play last year against UNLV. I've seen them a few times in person, but did you go to the San Jose State?
Boise State game I was there. I was there. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna miss this. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna miss this game. Just because it was, it was just kind of amazing to see just how I wanted to see the kid in person. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, you can see him on TV, and I wanted to see how he moved and all the different things with it. And I was like, wow, this kid is something. This kid's amazing. It really is something. It was something to watch, because they had him contained and they had it, and then they made a couple of mistakes, and they just kind of the wheels fell off the entire run of it for the San Jose State Spartans.
Yeah, I mean, I know looking at the box score, and I remember the game, it was a 3-touchdown game, but it wasn't like it was a slaughter from the get-go or anything like that, and the crowd was into it, and it was very much like the second game against UNLV against Boise State this past season as well. It's like you're right in there with it, and then you end up losing by 2 or 3 possessions because that guy's just going to keep running, and their offensive line's going to wear on you, and his vision and his breakability is just look, there's a reason he was picked in the top 10.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a reason why, and the Raiders are going to be very happy about that pick. They're going to be very, very stoked about him.
Well, I don't have my Raider hat on right now at this very moment, but I am looking forward to seeing him and what Pete Carroll does, and just another great show over there at Allegiant Stadium. But yeah, I agree with you, Alex. I think the Mountain West is a little more wide open than it had been in the past couple of years. I know UNLV under Barry Odom was really trying to make a run, and they did. They got close a few times, but they couldn't really get to the top of the mountain there in the conference past Boise State. But it is a little more open. Colorado State's still a good program. UNLV is still good. San Jose State, with the improvements they've made to their stadium over the last couple seasons, trying to get the market more engaged, that's been good to see. And they are always have a chance to have very competitive and good players there. And it's just tough when you're running into buzzsaws like that, like Boise State. But now getting into this playoff conversation, so I'm sure you've seen, and everybody who's listened or watched this show has seen that the format is a little bit different now for the playoffs. It's still a 12-team playoff, but the seeding is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to see weird situations where automatically a Clemson is going to be the 12th seed just because they won the conference championship. It's going to be straight seeding. So in some ways what it's really good for is the blue blood schools. It's great for the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Michigans, those kinds of programs. But how do you think that impacts, for instance, a conference like the Mountain West, or even let's look here at the last year sorry, not the last year, but let's look at what happened last year with the Mountain West. They were able to get a team in, but it was Boise State who was just absolutely dominant. And really, I think not just from winning the conference, they got in because of that performance they put up against Oregon as well, which was huge, and they almost won that game. But
yeah,
do you think the Mountain West still has a legitimate shot to punch another ticket 2 years in a row into the 12-team playoff?
That's going to be a tough sledding. I don't think it's as, easily gettable as it was, let's say, for last year for Boise State. It's going to be tough this year because, as you said, the reseeding of it's going to be straight top 12. That's whoever it is, and you have to be able to crack that and solidify your position in that top 12. If you don't, you're on the outside looking in, and the conference championship won't mean anything. It won't mean, okay, let me just make this clear. It won't mean anything for that. It'll mean something for your season, but it won't mean anything for that chance to get to the playoff. So you have to kind of leave no doubt, essentially. You have to just beat every team on your schedule, put up a great performance in your conference championship, and then hope the polls go your way, essentially.
So you're saying, and I agree with this. I've said this in episodes past that it's going to be a team if the Mountain West does punch another ticket to the playoff this year, which would be awesome for the conference.
Right.
I'm hoping it's UNLV because I get to cover the team, but and, it's always more fun to cover a winner than it is.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Always good.
Yeah, we both know that from experience, but the thing is, it's going to have to be a team that is either going to run the table undefeated or you maybe one loss. And that one loss is either going to have to be against a very marquee opponent, the way that Boise State had last year in Eugene. But it's either that, and that's not on the schedule for too many of these teams this year in the Mountain West.
No.
So the schedule does not do them any favors in terms of, hey, that can be looked at as a good resume building loss. You're not going to really see that with any of these teams that are very competitive this year. So barring that, which is not in existence this year, you don't have that scenario. It's going to have to be a team that either completely runs the table or somehow lays an egg in the conference championship game, and you're hoping that the Mountain West is better than any of the other non-Power 4 conferences. Last year, really going into the season, maybe the big threat was a school like Liberty, but they play in such a bad conference. They had to go undefeated. They didn't. So it did open the door up for a Boise State, even with the loss, to get in. But I'm very much in accordance with you, Alex, on this. I think it's going to have to be at max one loss, and you're going to need some chaos somewhere else. But really, if you want to be secure, you're going to have to run the table and win the conference championship game. You're going to have to be undefeated.
Yeah, have to be. You can't leave this up to, back in the, we would talk about this too, in the era of the BCS, that you had to leave no doubt. You had to leave no doubt, nothing up to chance, right? You had to make sure and be absolutely secure that you were going to be in the discussion for a bowl, for a bowl game, right? Your ranking, your seating, whatever. You had to leave no doubt to the computers, right, that you were one of the best teams in the country that year.
Yeah, no, and whether that was run up the score, really show someone up, and and try to make it very convincing. I mean, we saw teams do that repeatedly through the BCS era, and that was just kind of a staple of that era. There's parts of it I miss. I miss the idea of 1 versus 2 and the bowl games really meaning something. But we're in the playoff era now. We've been in it for a while, and the playoff will undoubtedly expand again.
Oh, it has to.
It has to, because there's too many schools and conferences that get angry, feeling that maybe they've been screwed over. All that being said, do you think it's more important for the Mountain West for a team, say, like, for instance, a UNLV, a San Jose State, a Fresno State, a Boise State, any of the top contending kind of teams? San Jose State's right there on that brink to being up there again, along with Colorado State and a few others. But do you think it's important for a Mountain West team to get in and solidify the Mountain West, at least in its last year of looking what it looks like now, and not just for the conference itself, but for these other group of fives? Do you think it's important for them to get in while the playoff is a 12-team playoff rather than when it gets expanded? Because my opinion is when it does get expanded, that spot, it's still valuable. You're going to want to make the playoff. No one's going to fault you for making the playoff. But, man, it looks a hell of a lot more impressive when you make it into the 12-team era playoff than if you do when it's 16, 20, 24, whatever the heck they expand it to.
Yeah, if you get in and you you say, okay, we were one of the 12 best teams in the nation. We were that it makes the achievement mean a little bit more. You know what I mean? And you know how it is with certain in different sports. Like, okay, it's like who you beat, right? Who you beat makes that like win matter a little bit more. Oh, they beat, so and so, or in the fight in the fight game, oh, so and so beat him for the title. That was a really good win. Or oh, he caught him on a bad day. Okay, that's going to be good. That makes it mean something. Or you were the one to, oh, you dethroned so and so, so that's a big win. It's to say, okay, we were the last Mountain West school to make it into the 12 team playoff. That it was us. It was nobody else. It was our school. That again, we talked about it. It solidifies it for the school, for in the area that we're in, era of NIL, right? That's a big thing. Draws money, draws eyes, viewership to your program, makes your program now more nationally known, right? Because some of these will be locally, right? Obviously, you get the local following, but now you get a little bit more eyes on it, that they're going to be, oh, let's look out for them, or oh yeah, I remember them, let's go over there. Or heck, now with college football, the video game, right there, some of these schools are going to be like, oh, let me play as San Jose State, let me play as UNLV. That's going to be a fun, oh yeah, there'll be a fun time out there. Oh, that'll be a great rebuild, right? And that's a big thing, because now, at least in this incarnation of the game, they're depending on like how many they use the school in Dynasty or franchise Road to Glory, whatever. Those schools are going to get money based on how many times they are used now, and that's a big thing, because you get more money for the school, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, more money for the athletic department.
Yeah.
Hopefully they put it in the right place. Another thing, you brought up the video game, something very interesting that came out, I think about a week and a half ago. Coaches are finally going to be in the game too. Yeah, it's huge. And for a school like UNLV, for everybody watching, Dan Mullen is a pretty good coach.
Oh, yeah.
And has been a big name for a while. He's going to be in the game. It's something that's going to put a little shine, not just on the university, but the conference as well. The other thing I wonder too, Alex, it's probably not going to happen in that 12-team era. Well, I'll just say it. It's not going to. You're not going to see a Mountain West school host a playoff game in this 12-team era. No. However, when it does get expanded, do you foresee a Mountain West school, or if there's some type of mishmash of this Mountain West and new Pac-12, do you see one of those schools potentially hosting a playoff game, even though it'll be maybe in that opening round? And really the reason I ask this is because think about some of the stadiums we have now in this area of the country between these two conferences. I mean, Boise State, I think that'd be a really cool place to see a playoff game be hosted. Allegiant is top notch. Yep. San Jose State has redone a lot of their stadium, and they're continuing to make renovations. One of my favorites is actually Snapdragon down in San Diego. I think San Diego State's stadium is incredible.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, venue there, and it's built on the remnants of old Qualcomm Stadium. So it's like it's right there. It's got the history, based off of the times that they were, playing there. And then, there was a fun game back in 2012 that I called down at San Jose State, San Diego State. And it was a fun, thrilling matchup at Qualcomm. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is awesome in here. It's like, this is where Super Bowls were held. This is where the Chargers played. This is all that history is in there. And, it's not the same. Obviously, it's not the same building, but they did a great job repurposing that area so that they could have something brand new that looks phenomenal and that can be used for multiple different things. Because I believe their MLS team plays there as well. So that's a good use of space for San Diego State. That'd be a great venue to see a game. You know what I mean? They could get on the come up one year down the road, or something in some other stadiums.
What about Fresno State would be really fun.
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting call, because it is kind of dug into the ground. It's an interesting stadium, and I think I can't believe I'm saying this. It is interesting to see how they have everything set up there, with the stadium, with the football stadium. You got the softball stadium down the way, the baseball stadium over there, and Save Mart Center at the end of the corner at at the end of the way coming in. You know what I mean? It's a interesting setup that they have that I think some schools are looking at to kind of replicate. I know San Jose State has a little bit of that with where they are at with South Campus, with the baseball using Muni. You have this, the new stadium, you have the different facilities that are right there, soccer, and then you have the golf facility that they just built over there as well. It would be fun. It would be a lot of fun to see one of these schools just kind of get the shine on more of a national stage down the road. And depending on how the seating would work, it could be that it's however it works out, that the low, like the upper tier, will have their the stadiums right for the bowl, where the bowl is, and then the lower ones, that first round is going to be in the school, at the schools.
Yeah, no, at the schools. And when that playoff does get expanded, let's just say it goes from 12 to 24, right? You add another 12 teams, which might probably be the way it works out, or at least it'll get there eventually. You're looking at, okay, hey, one of these group of 5 conferences, and I'm just going to throw the Pac-12 into there as well, unless something drastic happens. But you're going to have these schools that we have historically seen in the Mountain West maybe host a game as a 15 seed or a 14 seed against a team that's lower seed. So, no, I am very much looking forward to that in the future. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, this broadcasting thing that I opened up with at the top, I mean, that's huge. Hopefully that draws eyes to the conference and to some of these teams that are really trying to contend and get to that point that Boise State has been at for so long. But I think it's a nice little, we saw kind of the swan song of the Pac-12 last year, and we might be seeing it in a way for the Mountain West this year as well. Alex, I would ask you this. So let's say that, for instance, a UNLV does run the table, they're able to punch their ticket. Do you think, or San Jose State, Colorado State, any of these teams who are now not in the new Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
So let's think about the teams that are not in the new Pac-12. Do you think this then incentivizes them to jump ship and go to one of these other conferences?
I think in how it lays out, if they go and they run the table and they don't receive something of a high, bid, or at least a call or a look, may give them that incentive to say, hey, it might be time, we need to get out of this, and we have to find a way to get out of this deal and get into something that makes it a little bit more advantageous for us to succeed in football, to succeed because we have the facility, we have the viewership, we have the talent, we have the wherewithal to compete. We're just kind of locked into a bad deal, essentially, that we agree to, because to keep the conference together, right? And it's a big thing, because the future, nobody knew what the future was once those schools left. You had to solidify what you had. But if down the road it becomes more of an albatross to stay, then it is okay, we can figure out the money and get out of it to at least have a chance to compete, or at least have a chance to, even sniff those big games, or sniff the chance to make more money, or go on some miracle run, because that could happen, because UNLV or a San Jose State or Colorado State could go on a run, right, where they look phenomenal, right? And then it just kind of, it falters, or, something happens, or, you're not going to get the nod because your conference isn't good enough. You're not going to be, you're going to get you might get a good bowl, maybe, but you're not going to sniff anything huge. You'll get a lower, a mid-level tier bowl game, and you're going to be happy with that. They're going to say
LA Bowl, or
right. You're going, exactly. exactly. That's what it'll be. Vegas, the Las Vegas. I don't know if do they still have that or no?
They still do.
Okay.
It's just happily not at Sam Boyd Stadium
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Yeah. Good thing it's at Good thing it's at Allegiant. But
Yeah.
again, the same. You know what? You may have a great year, and then you say, okay, you're playing the Hawaii Bowl. Well, the Hawaii Bowl is not what it was because you're playing where Hawaii plays, which is not up to stuff now. Not up to stuff now. In the few years, it will be, but right now, it's not. You're playing at a glorified practice facility.
Yeah. Or I mean, and even some of the more top tier non-playoff bowl games. I mean, you just have the players opting out, and I know that the playoff has now instituted. They did last week. The CFP has now instituted. Teams are going to have to say who's available, who's going to play, who's not. But that's just for the CFP. That's still not coming to the rest of these bowl games. So how important are some of these bowl games?
Oh, it's that's the thing, because now to the student in the student athlete now with the NIL and whatever they're going to do moving on, now their future, they have to hold, they kind of have to secure their future. And to them, into how it is, okay, I got my money, right? I got my money now, right? And I got a little bit of money, but what else do I owe the school? What else do I owe the school? My body, right? And that's the thing. And then that's not how it used to be, because you'd see everybody played, right? You didn't see guys opting out, right? Because it was like, well, okay, you opt out if something happens, right? For example, like when San Jose State played in the Arizona Bowl in 2020, everybody got sick with COVID. They got sick with COVID, and then that happens, right? What are you going to do?
Can't do anything about it.
Can't do anything about that. You know what I mean? But now you're starting to see guys opt out, and you're like, okay, well, we could have used him. Could have used him for that game. Could have probably won this game if we would have had this guy, right? Or you're just like, oh, now it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you get hurt. Now your draft stock is going down. Or if you decide to transfer, now you're kind of messed up to go to the next place.
Yeah, no, and that was something we saw last year happily not happen. We didn't see, for instance, when Boise State, no one opted out of that playoff game they were playing.
Oh yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, come on.
For UNL, when they played in the LA Bowl, no one opted out. I didn't see Nick Nash ever opt out of a game for San Jose State, and I saw him play every position they ever asked him to play.
I know. Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it was good to have that pride as part of this Mountain West Conference. I do think, though, that it only makes sense for them to merge with this new Pac-12 eventually.
I will say he did, as much as I love Nick Nash, he did opt out of the Hawaii Bowl, and I mean it makes sense. I get it, you know what I mean, and I wish the best to him for his career. Wherever he lands, he's a very talented receiver, very talented. You know what? He's a very talented athlete. Let's just say that. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to it that these, initially, and I saw this happen, that the WAC in the last days of the Western Athletic Conference, the teams that were leaving, and we thought, okay, we're never going to play Fresno State again. We're never going to play these schools again. And then it comes to pass that, okay, we're going to join the Mountain West. Right. Yeah. So I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a merge. I think a merge will happen, and I think a merge in divisions. I think merge in divisions will happen because it doesn't make sense to play straight down the line. It's going to be a merge in divisions, and it'll be whatever they decide to call it. It'll probably be the Pac-12 because it's better, the branding of it. But that's how it is, and I think that in order for the teams to survive in this new era, it's going to have to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're going to have to figure out a way to merge. I know everybody has to posture. The commissioners of the conferences have to say, no, we like it the way it is with what we've just built right now. Oh, we like it over here. But at the end of the day, I know that they've imposed, I think, as the Mountain West, this roughly, and UNLV is a big part of this with this grant of rights agreement, this $8 million, I believe, exit penalty fee that you'd have to pay. I mean, any school can really come up with that, but why even deal with that? Just make a straight merger. Just make a straight deal where you just merge, like you said, have divisions and go about it that way.
I think that's the best way to do it because it's only fair. I think it's only fair because now you haven't nobody's left. Nobody's left. Nobody's we're just taking we're merging. We're becoming something new. It's becoming something new instead of conference poaching off these teams. It's becoming something new.
Yeah, no, exactly. Rather than, okay, so maybe the top couple teams from this new version of the Mountain West in the future and this new version of the Pac-12 in the future end up splintering off and going to a Big 12 or something like that, seeing after the success they ASU. And this is something I've pitched before on this show where I've said, well, if a merger can happen and I'm UNLV, I'm looking at places like the Big 12. As crazy as that sounds, but I also think about the fact that this conference right now is constituted, has a school like Air Force. I mean, imagine having a Pac-12 with all these still remaining Mountain West schools merging into one conference now, right? And you have a school like Air Force who has their own fan base, they're a military academy, but you're all at least going to have a built-in big game between the other academies as well. You're always going to see a Navy or an Army. Like that's just more eyeballs on the conference and ultimately more eyeballs on every other team in the conference.
Yeah, exactly. That it just makes sense to do that. Doesn't make sense to kind of splinter off and just be, what are we doing here? I mean, you look at some of these teams and for example, you look at Oklahoma, they're finding life hell in the SEC when they would be dominating in the Big 12. Or you look at USC, you look at some of those schools that, oh, yeah, we're going to be fine. We'll be fine. We'll get there. And then you get into the Big 10 and you like, whoa, this is not what we thought.
Look at not good. I mean, me formerly being a Bay Area guy, you still in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Look what Cal was able to do this year in the ACC. Amazing. But let's not expect that that's going to happen year in and year out for a team that has to travel to the other side of the country for their away games.
Exactly. It just is like, what do you expect? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, so I look at what's going on now with the Mountain West, this new version of the Pac-12 that has poached some of these or gotten some of these Mountain West teams that are still there right now. And this has a chance to really be one of the last still standing regional football conferences that could actually have some programs that are worth a darn and that people want to watch. Other than that, you're looking at the old Big Ten without the newcomers. I mean, luckily their newcomers are Oregon and USC and UCLA. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, you kind of got the SEC, but even then you're looking at teams like Texas. Texas is its own thing. Texas isn't part of the Southeast. Oklahoma is Oklahoma. They're not part of the Southeast. So you have a chance here. These two conferences do have a chance to shake hands and go, this will be better for both of us in the future. And it'll be better for us athletically too, because it'll increase our chances of getting into these premier football games and getting real viewership, and maybe not always having to be on CBS Sports, maybe being able to get on big CBS.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big goal. That's the big goal. That you want to be on the main networks. You know what I mean? You want to be able to be watched when you don't have a cable subscription. You want to be able to just regular TV. Oh yeah, we're on CBS. Oh yeah, okay, there it is. There's the game. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you don't have to look at the TV guide. You don't have to go scrolling for days. God forbid you don't have to do a pay-per-view for your team like Oklahoma used to do in the past.
Oh my gosh.
Although Oklahoma was pretty successful with that pay-per-view model that they had for a few years. All that being said, about 43 minutes into the show now, Alex, we've gone over the peaks and valleys of this new Mountain West and what we're approaching going into the season. Summer is here. Most of the teams have pretty much solidified how they are. I know at UNLV, there's still a bit of a quarterback battle, whether it's going to be Alex Orji from Michigan formerly or Calandria, who came over from the East Coast. But what's kind of your overview for the Mountain West this year? Who do you see as that team that really has the best chance of taking the bull by the horns and being that premier team this year?
Man, it's tough because there's so many different, ways you can go. You know what I mean? I do have I mean to me it's if you're saying to take out Boise or just in okay if that's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
to take out, but let's just assume that Boise is still the cream of the crop. They have quarterback stability, they have coaching stability. The biggest turnover is the fact that they're missing their Heisman running back.
Yeah,
Right, that's it. And he didn't win the Heisman, but he in any other year where he wasn't going against the guy who played two positions, he would have.
Yeah, he would have easily. You know what? I hate to make this as easy as like generic as possible, but I really think it is UNLV and San Jose State. There's not, I look at the teams around, there's too many questions, right? And I know both of our schools have questions, different positions, right? San Jose State is a little bit more with you have, some defensive guys leave. And the big thing too, I think, is going to be the receiver room. The receiver room for San Jose State is going to be the big question mark because Nick Nash is gone. Justin Lockhart's gone. They have to kind of figure out where they're going to go with their pass catchers and then to build that chemistry with them. And I think the big thing, and I talked about this last year, was that they were shuffling between quarterbacks. Is it was Emmett Brown and Walker Eget. Then, okay, if Brown struggled, Eget came in, same vice versa. They solidified on Walker Eget, which is good, right? You solidify a quarterback. You don't lose your running back. Floyd Chalk stays, right? I think they're going to have a better, at least, concept of their offense with, under this, Stutzman. I think they're going to be, I think they'll be better, but also there's that momentary, like, oh, they're going to still struggle. They're going to still be able to stop the ball. I will say this, that nobody expected them to be in a bowl game in Ken Niumatalolo's first year. They thought they were going to bottom out and be trash and terrible, but they ended up making it to a bowl game. They didn't win. They haven't won a bowl game, right, in a very long time. They're getting there, and that's the big thing, is that you keep the fans entertained and you get them to, okay, this is just my thing as well. It's like, okay, you get there, you get on a ride of a season, but you can't close the deal in the last game of the year. Got to be able to do it. You got to be able. This fan base is struggling for a bowl win. It's ridiculous. I think that they'll be able to be there. I think that it's going to be for them. They avoid UNLV this year. They avoid Boise. They avoid the top, some of the big matchups. A lot of their big Mountain West games are at home. Some of the games on the road are a little bit easier than, some of the lower level Mountain West opponents are on the road, and they're not at home. You get the tough games at home. Obviously you have to face Texas, right? And I think that's one of the big, to go into, Austin, that's going to be tough. You know what I mean?
That's the one Mountain West game that is similar this year to Boise State going to Oregon. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the one on the schedule.
Yeah, because like you said, Texas is its own thing, man.
Yeah.
That's going to be some of these guys will be seeing some competition for the first time. That's like, oh wow, this is insane. Yeah, this is a little bit different than we initially had anticipated. Again, I think it's going to be a fun year. I'm locked in, you know what I mean? I'm not going to I'm going to have blind, I wouldn't say blind hope, but I'm going to have hope, right? Because they've pushed together, great seasons. I think with the change in coaching staff, I think it was a time to get a new voice in there, essentially. And Niumatalolo has shown that he is a leader of men across where he's, his record at Navy, right? That he's shown that he got them to great, success. And that's tough to win at a service academy. It's tough. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to I have hope for them. I have hope that they will, be in the top conversation because, they do have all the pieces there. I think they just need to see how it all coagulates and comes together.
No, I agree. I think growing up in the Bay Area, I've always followed all the different Bay Area college programs. I still do. Now working in the Mountain West, obviously I have to stay apprised of everybody else who's there.
Oh
But
yeah.
I agree. I mean, you said you did make it easy for the purposes of this show. UNLV and San Jose State, they definitely have a chance to be one of those teams that maybe finally gets to the top of the mountain in the Mountain West. Boise State, just looking at their schedule, I mean, they start off with at South Florida. I mean, unless you're Alabama, no one really has a problem with South Florida, but the University of Alabama does for whatever reason. They're then going to go play Eastern Washington, who is a very good FCS program. But then Air Force, they don't really have a test until they go to Notre Dame on October 4th. So who knows what happens there? So very good credit to them for scheduling another very good marquee game for being a Mountain West school.
And that's a big thing, that it's not at the top of their schedule. It's like a little bit down the way, so you can kind of see what you have and where you're at before you go into a big, game with all the eyes there at South Bend.
Yeah, no, I mean, and credit to them for making that game, but that's going to be a tough one. It's hard to win. It's hard to win against Notre Dame. It's hard for anybody to go to Notre Dame and South Bend and go win a game. UNLV, just to kind of get into them a little bit, the quarterback position had quarterback flux last year with the Matthew Sluka deal happening, and then Haj Malik Williams actually came in and did a great job for the team. The offense is going to be a little bit different this year with Dan Mullen running things. It's not going to be the go-go offense. That being said, he's had great success with the quarterbacks, but there are players, you mentioned the wide receiving room, for instance, at San Jose State kind of being decimated because of guys either graduating or getting drafted or going to the NFL. The thing, UNLV is going to be missing one of their most dynamic players in Ricky White, but on the defense, they're missing their defensive leader now, and Jackson Woodard, he's gone. As well as Baldwin, Jonathan Baldwin, the safety, he's out of there. They're also a cornerback. So, I mean, there are gaps to fill. This is the thing. I go through this UNLV schedule, and covering the team, I want them to be good. I want them to be successful. I'm invested in it. But versus UCLA, I don't know what that game looks like. That's going to be at Allegiant Stadium, week 2. Then, some of the road games here. At Miami of Ohio, at Wyoming, at Boise State, October 18th. That will be a big game. That will be the one that everybody's circling on their calendar, at least who's a UNLV fan. But the rest of the schedule isn't too bad. At Colorado State, they could give you some trouble. They were 6-1 in the conference last year. But it's kind of like every team has their 1 to 2 games in this conference, the ones that we're expecting to be either ascending or staying consistent, maybe getting a little bit better, Alex. They all have 1 to 2 games that are very difficult for them. I would actually say, though, that Boise State, their schedule's relatively the same. They've put themselves in the same position that they did last year. They're going to have their one big marquee game against an out-of-conference opponent, and then they're going to try to deal with the tough conference opponents that they have just right in front of them as well.
Yeah, pretty standard setup for them. I think they've gotten into a flow where they're like, okay, we're going to schedule we got a big game against somebody that we don't usually play, marquee matchup, and then, all right, let's take care of our business. If we lose that and we end up 11-1, so be it.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And just last topic on this, before we get into one other thing, kind of want to talk about some of the projects you've been working on, Alex. Really appreciate once again for you coming on and just chopping it up about the Mountain West, UNLV, my second alma mater, and your alma mater, San Jose State. But do you think this is a must-make playoff year for the conference? I mean, this is the last year the conference is going to look like what it looks like right now. Do you think, I know we talked about how significant it would be to make it in the 12-team playoff again, but do you think not making the playoff maybe put some of these ideas of merger or building something better for this conference or with another conference? Do you think that puts those on the back burner if this conference, for whatever reason, internal cannibalization, say multiple losses to each other during the regular season, Do you think if they don't make the playoff, one of these teams from this conference doesn't, do you think that kind of puts some of those things that we've discussed earlier today on the back burner and maybe makes them a little less tenable?
Yeah, I think so. I think if they do make the playoff again, if the conference makes the playoff again, it will be, solidified. Okay, it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke that they really deserve to be there. That depending on if you look at the schedule of the teams that we talked about, that you'd look at that and say, oh yeah, they deserve to be there. Yeah, they beat some great teams. They had a great, they lost to so and so. Okay, well, of course they were going to lose to so and so. Of course they were going to lose to Texas. Or okay, they lost to Notre Dame, who just played in the national. It's like, okay, of course it's going to happen. That's something that you got to look at. And that if they do, I think it'll say, okay, wasn't a fluke, right? That the conference as a whole, will be able to go on, or this will be the last go of it. And what a way to end it, with a team in the conference in the 12-team playoff.
No. Yeah, it would be a heck of a swan song, as we said earlier. It'd be a great send-off for the conference as we know it right now. Would love for it to be a program other than Boise State, just because that makes the rest of the conference, the teams that are still there, look good. It makes it look like a better conference from top to bottom. And I think when you have a conference that has 3 to 4 schools that are at least going 6-1, 5-2 even in conference play, that really shows that you're a deep conference from top to bottom in football. So looking forward to that. Alex, before we get out of here, once again, thank you for everybody who's been watching, who's listening today, wherever you're getting this podcast at. But Alex, what have you been working on? I know at the top we plugged it, the Forgotten Sports, but I think it's really important.
Yeah, I'm working with our, fellow compadre, Cody Elias. We're doing some articles on things that aren't getting a lot of publication or a lot of eyes on it, like San Jose State football, San Jose State, some basketball. We've got a lot of hockey, San Jose Sharks hockey, just because the Sharks have been on kind of a rebuild, but not a lot of interest in the team. I think that's starting to pick back up again, just because of the addition of Macklin Celebrini to the roster and Will Smith, their development together. Also Askarov, the goaltender. And I think with this upcoming draft in the next couple of days, I think it's going to be a little bit more enticing to jump on the Sharks bandwagon. And also we've got some new, news and notes about wrestling with WWE and all of that fun stuff in that game. Kind of taking a little bit of a slow period right now, just because there hasn't been some interesting things. It's now getting interesting since WrestleMania. I will say that it's getting definitely more intriguing, just because the WrestleMania was just such a big letdown night 2 that a lot of people were just kind of like, especially like fans were like, I'm kind of turned off by this. So
Paul Heyman stole the show. I mean,
yes, he did. Night 1, I will say, night 1 definitely was 100% better than night 2. I say this to, we essentially, to people and fans, and how we saw it the year before in Philadelphia at 40. You essentially had, the night 1 and night 2 connected to each other, and that essentially what you had in night 2, you essentially had Avengers Endgame, essentially, with everybody coming out, and you had this great big moment, right? That was something that you never would have seen. And I think just the emotional high from that led everybody to believe, oh, we're going to get another emotional high, or we're going to get something else. And what it seemed to me like the end of night 2 with John Cena and Cody Rhodes and Travis Scott coming in, to me, it felt like I went back in time, fired up the DeLorean back to 1998, and it was a WCW, like the end of a WCW NWO pay-per-view, where Hulk Hogan won because he kicked somebody in the nuts, and then Dennis Rodman handed him the title, and then that was it. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
No, night 1, I really enjoyed. Night 2, so even though I'm local here and I had a chance to go, I ended up not going. I was just like, I don't really know if I'm down with the 2-day ticket package for going.
Yeah,
they're coming back to Allegiant next year.
Yeah.
Triple H said it was so good the first time. We're going to do it again. I'm definitely going to go this time. So if you want to come out, Alex, we'll go to
figure it out.
WrestleMania.
We'll
But
figure it out.
it's a huge event. As you said, you and our friend Cody Elias have been working on the Forgotten Sports. I know he's really busy with A's right now. Another team that is leaving the Bay Area eventually to come to Las Vegas. I'm just bringing all of our teams over here. But all that being said, no, I love the stuff that you guys do. The podcast is good, and the articles are great, and it's one of the few places where I can actually get good Sharks news. So I always appreciate that as well. Even though I'm here in the belly of the beast with the Golden Knights, I'm still a Sharks fan, and I'm happy that Macklin Celebrini made one of the all NHL rookie teams. So that was good to see. But yeah, no. And where can they find all this stuff, Alex?
It's on Substack. It's the Forgotten Sports. We have some stuff probably down the works. Joe Thornton got announced for the Hockey Hall of Fame today. Probably going to be working on an article for that in a little bit, and then Sharks draft party is going to be on Friday. So I'm going to be there. I want to see kind of what the vibe is like at SAP Center. See if I know it's there. They have the number 2 pick, so I don't think it's going to be as raucous as when they had the number 1 pick last year, but it's still a top pick, and I think generating with this more interest with the team, and that it's a free event, that they're gonna go get people to come out to the SAP Center. And the SAP Center now is one of the oldest buildings in the NHL, but they do so much good work to update and modernize it that you wouldn't have even thought that if I told you that.
No, it's still an awesome building. We have T-Mobile here, which is a great building.
Yeah.
But no, I love SAP Center, HP Pavilion, whatever it's going to be called in the
San Jose
future.
Arena. Don't forget about the Compaq Center down there.
Oh, the Compaq Center.
Yeah,
but the Raiders actually, they had a very good draft event that they did for the NFL draft over at the Palms. I got to go. It was free to go to. It was really fun.
That's awesome.
For the Sharks, real quick before we get out of here, maybe because you brought up Joe Thornton, maybe this will be like the '98 NHL draft. Maybe number 2 pick is also a Hall of Famer. Who knows? Maybe it's a Marlo Thornton 1 too.
Hey, you never know. Like you would think you hope you cross your fingers that there's something like that. The work that both of those guys have done for the franchise in terms of just their play on the ice, and then also stuff that they're doing, off the ice is a big thing with, Joe Thornton housing Macklin Celebrini and him living there and kind of picking the brain of one of the all-time greats, in the NHL, and also one of if not one of the best Sharks of all time.
Yeah. Him and Patrick Marleau. So no, it's all great. So you can find all that on Substack, the Forgotten Sports. They have podcasts as well. And Alex, just want to thank you once again. I love that you're all on board with UNLV this year, thinking that they're going to take the cake and make the playoff, and no ifs, ands, buts about it. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. That was a good time. We're having
thank you so much for coming on, everybody who watched or listened, whether Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube. Really appreciate it. You finally got the Instagram page going up this week as well. And I just want to thank Alex Scott for being our first guest on the podcast here at Believe in UNLV Football. So once again, thank you everybody for watching or listening. We'll see you next time out. So probably Thursday. Today is Tuesday. We'll have another one coming your way on Thursday. So once again, I'm Alon to say thank you to our guest, Alex Scott, and we'll see you next time.